Hello, everyone. Welcome to Earth Angels Radio. This is Carol, and I'd like to introduce to you a new host that's with us today, Dr. Michael Ryce. Dr. Ryce has been with us. He was a guest on our show a little over a week ago, and he was talking to us about his book and the work he does. Why is this happening to me again? And many of us have been asking this question most of our lives, of what things have been happening to us again. And he is going to be a new host with us here at Earth Angels Radio. And he will be here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to turn this over to Michael and welcome him to our network. And if you'd also like to call in, you could call in at 646-200-4169. Hello, Michael, and welcome to the show.
Delight to be here. I'm looking forward to how our time on Blog Talk Radio unfolds. The topic of our conversation for as long as we're going to be playing here will be, why is this happening to me again? The Aramaic tools of forgiveness. And everything that we've developed that ties into that why is this happening to me again topic. So it's a delight to be here, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are excited about having you here with us as well. So let's talk about this forgiveness. Let's get started here and tell us a little bit about you so people can know what you're doing.
Cool. Well, the name of my book, of course, is Why Is This Happening to Me Again, and What You Can Do About It. And the book is a synthesis, actually, of several different disciplines: science, psychology, spiritual psychology, and particularly the ancient Aramaic language. And in that language, we have a total reversal on the idea of forgiveness from what our culture generally teaches us. Our culture teaches us, of course, that someone outside of us did something really terrible and is the problem in our lives. And if they just change, then everything would be fine inside of us. And if they won't change, or even if we will, we're taught, well, you just let them off the hook. You forgive them. And the offering that the Aramaic gives us is that process has absolutely nothing to do with forgiveness. It's a nice thing to do, to pardon somebody, but it's a Greek idea that's been substituted for forgiveness. And what we are about in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again work is restoring the original idea of forgiveness on planet Earth. And that is, rather than letting others off the hook for what's going on inside of us, to change what's going on inside of us, to take responsibility for what's going on inside of us, and apply the tool of forgiveness to reaching inside of ourselves and changing the root of our pain, rather than letting somebody else off the hook for what it is that's happening, that's being produced in our physiology. And so that's the bottom line of everything that we do and what we're about doing. Jeannie and I, my wife, travel 6 to 10 months of the year around the globe and put forward a worksheet process called reality management that comes out of the Aramaic, something we've developed out of the Aramaic understanding, for how you change the contents of your own mind instead of pretending that somebody else is the problem in your life. And it looks like perhaps we've got a couple of callers calling in, and okay.
Yes, you do. You have a couple of callers here.
5611, you're on the air. Okay, 561, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, 561, you're on the air.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, this is Lena from Boca Raton.
Who am I speaking to?
Lena.
Hi, Lena.
Hi.
Did you have a thought, a question for us?
Well, I just started listening to your show, and I'm struggling with trying to forgive my ex-husband for all the stress that he's put me through with the court system for the past 10 years, and just trying to deal with
Lena, we're going to give you a little different idea than the culture gives you about forgiveness. And actually what I'm going to suggest is that you never forgive him. That would be a mistake. You might choose, if he's done some crazy stuff, which it sounds is possible, you might choose to pardon him for that. But, you know, the struggle and the pain that your physiology generates is something that happens inside of you. It's not something caused by him. Our mind plays the game of pretending that what's going on inside of us is about somebody else. If he went through whatever gyrations he's gone through and you didn't have internalized pain, you'd stand in a place of peace and watch what was happening and be more empowered to change the dynamics that are taking place outside of you. But you can't change the dynamics that are taking place outside of you until you change the dynamics that are happening inside of you. So I'm going to suggest that you jump on our website, which is www.whyagain.com. That's whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a thing that says Download Worksheets. And if you click on the first item there, you'll see what's entitled the new chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It's a specific set of instructions for how to go inside yourself and start to remove the pain that's happening inside of you instead of letting him off the hook for what's happening inside of you. And as you do that, you're going to notice some magnificent changes happening in your life. There's a worksheet process, a step-by-step, 7-step worksheet process for exactly how to do that, and that chapter 24 is there. It's free. It's on the site. You can actually download my whole book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? There's several videos and audios that talk about that process. And so that's the first step that I'd offer that you engage in. And as you do that, what will happen is you'll start to change the dynamics inside yourself. When you change the dynamics inside yourself, I had the blessing about almost 30 years ago now of getting to do some work with a fellow named Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. Awesome man, awesome genius. And Marcel had an instrument in his laboratory with which to take a picture of the high-energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. We underestimate the power of the energies that we hold within us to produce effects in our world. And what will tend to happen as you change those energies inside of you is the dynamics that are happening outside of you will start to shift. You know, one of Jeannie's favorite analogies is if you're playing a game of tug of war with someone and they pull the rope and you pull the rope and they pull the rope and you're yanking each other around, if you drop your end of the rope, their game has to change. And so forgiveness is a way to drop your end of the rope. Does that make some sense for you?
Yeah, it does, but it's still something that I'm struggling with, internally.
Well, we're going to be doing this show every day at this time, and so what I'm going to invite you to do is to pick up, download that worksheet process and the instructions for doing it. I see you're in 561, so you're in Boca.
Yes.
We're going to be in Boca tonight and tomorrow night. Tonight we're going to do a workshop called On Creating Consciously at 7 o'clock, and tomorrow night we're going to do another one called Getting the Stress You Need. I think you'd find both of those workshops helpful if you wanted to join us. They're free. They're open workshops. They'll start at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9:30, at a place called the Heart Painter Studio, just north or in between Camino Real and Palmetto Park Road. On the east side, the ocean side of US 1, there's a place called Royal Palm Place, a plaza.
Right.
If you go to Royal Palm Place, that's where the big statue is on US 1, the big monument. If you take the second entrance north of the monument, there you'll pull in beside a health food store, and if you go straight back and park in that right up close to the building, you'll see some signs to the Heart Painter Studio. It's inside of the plaza. Although the plaza isn't under roof, there's some inside hallways. It's inside the plaza, and that's where you'll find us tonight and tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Come and join us, dig out and do some of those worksheets, and let's have an ongoing conversation and see if we can support you changing these dynamics.
Thank you so much.
Michael,
you are most welcome.
they can go to the website, theheartpainter.com. It's got the information on there. It's got directions to the place. It is at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go to theheartpainter.com.
Cool. So thanks for being on the show. I think we've got somebody else from 561. Oh, okay. Well, I've got Jeannie on the phone, and I've also got Carol. So here we are. And that forgiveness process is something that at first in our logical mind doesn't make a lot of sense, because of course we think it's all everybody else's fault. And that's because when we deny ownership for what's going on inside of us, we enter into what I call a dissociated state. Dissociated state is where a part of your mind is hiding from you. And the part of your mind that's hiding from you is the part that says, I deserve pain, I don't deserve whatever it is that I want. And as I recognize that part of my mind and the effects it has, the solution lies in coming back into relationship with that part of my mind. As long as that part of my mind is hidden, I can't change it, and I'll keep sending out the same signal, literally the same high energy wave, that one that I spoke of that Marcel Vogel could measure. I'll keep sending that out until I change that inside myself. Now, I can think about that all I want. I can reason about it. I can question it. I can choose to do something different, but none of that critical thinking, none of that changing, none of the new choices that I make impact what's in that dissociated part of the mind. Once I learn how to go into that part of my mind, then my critical thinking, then my new choices can take hold. But as long as I'm blaming someone else and forgiving them for what it is that I'm participating in setting up. Now, when I say that I'm participating in setting up, that doesn't mean it's my fault. It just means it's my responsibility. It means I'm a player in my life. You know, in the workshops, one of the tongue-in-cheek lines I'd love to deliver is, you'll notice if you've been through a particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people, you're the only one that was there every time. The content of your mind, the things that show up in your lives are about you. And once you start to change those dynamics, everything starts to change around you. It has to. The next step in doing the process of healing, which the content of that dissociated mind, is to recognize how the dissociated mind works. What it does is it sets up dynamics that keep you hidden from yourself. Every dissociated thought is a command to the cell it's stored in. The mind functions through every cell in the body. And when we deny something, and you can go back into the most ancient teachings and you'll see them saying, stop your denial. When you deny something, that part of your mind that's hidden is not changeable. And it's not until you can touch into that aspect of yourself that's distorting the part of your structure that it's stored in. And when you put an energy into your structure that you deny, that energy literally becomes a command to distort your cellular structure. Literally, the mind functions through every cell in the body. And so wherever that information is stored, then that part of the structure starts to move toward disease process. It's the energy that creates aging. Time has nothing to do with aging. It's just that we tend to store these dissociated energies over time, and so it looks like time is the enemy, but time is not the enemy. It's our own dissociated selves that's the problem in our lives. Again, one of the questions I love to ask people is how many have ever taken the geographic cure? Have you ever noticed You take the geographic cure, you go to the other side of the country where people will be different, and the person that picks you up at the airport finishes the sentence that the person that dropped you off started. How do they know what to do? How do they know what to say to you? They know because you're continuously broadcasting. You're continuously sending out that high energy wave, and that energy wave creates a resonance in people. And that is, if someone has a potential to bounce off of that part of your mind, they'll tend to play off of that part of your mind. And as they do, if we remain in denial, we literally use that hidden part of our mind to build our brain's image of them. And then they show up in our mind with our problem attached, and we're sure it must be their problem. But I'd offer that as a creator, no one else is the problem in your life. Others can certainly give you opportunities to learn forgiveness. Others can certainly give you opportunities to look at parts of your mind that you've been hiding from. But getting those parts of your mind back into awareness and changing them become the key to all healing, whether that healing is physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And people will say, well, wait a minute now, that doesn't make sense. We know that bugs and, there are these bacteria and viruses that cause diseases. And I would offer that, there's an old saying that says, if you feed them, they will come. If you put a dissociated thought into a cell and start the destruction of that cell, the decay of the cell produces byproducts that become a food supply for those organisms that we want to blame for our diseases. But those organisms are no part of cause. Those organisms are simply coming to clean up the mess, coming to clean up the decay that's happening. And when we recognize that, we become acquainted again with the hidden part of what's in our own minds, which means that which is in our own bodies. Oh, wait a minute now, Michael, how can that possibly create disease in the cell? Well, there's some interesting research being done by a fellow named Bruce Lipton, who's a cell biologist. And what Bruce is showing us is that when you think a thought, that thought literally produces a neuropeptide, a chemical, a molecule that moves around in your structure until it finds a cell with a receptor site that matches. When that lands on the receptor site, the cell replicates the neuropeptide that's a product of your thought chemically, and now you're living with the chemistry of your thoughts. And there's the mind-body connection that has been so elusive for so long, and I really acknowledge Bruce Lipton for bringing that together. And as we start to synthesize all these different disciplines, we start to see parts of ourselves that we've never seen. We start to see the dynamics and how they work. 255, you're on the line. Good morning. Or pardon me, no, it's afternoon already, isn't it? As we start to synthesize all these different disciplines, hello, I guess it's area code 417. You're on the line.
Michael, this is David.
Hello, David. How are you, sir?
Hello, this is
Good
David.
afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm listening to
do you want to turn the volume down in the background so we'll be able to hear you? Maybe hit the mute button on your computer, whatever it is you're listening on.
Okay, I've turned it down. So just checking in with you about when you were talking about this happening on a cellular level, what does that do to the physical part of me? What can I expect that happens from that?
You're saying if I deal with that part of me?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, let me start out. Let me introduce David for those who are listening to the show. David is the manager at Heartland. He's at our center in the Ozarks in southern Missouri. So we're hearing from, is it warm or chilly Missouri this morning or this afternoon?
Oh, it's pretty cool. It's about 35 degrees out there, and it's a cold, dampy 35 degrees.
Okay. So this is David Hayes, and he's the manager at Heartland. And so, of course, when we start to deal with that which distorts the cell, forgiveness extracts the energy that created the distortion. The cell, not being a physical thing, but rather a reflection of energies contained in the cell changes its structure when you remove what didn't belong in the cell in the first place. You know, if you think about, you're sitting watching television, somebody pulls up in a car that's poorly tuned, and all of a sudden that beautiful picture that you had is all fuzzy, all lines running through it, the sound is noisy, it's hard to hear. And so you say there must be something wrong with the television. Nothing wrong with the television. The television is a perfectly reflective state of the energies that enter in through the antenna. And in the case of the poorly tuned car coming in, that go into the set and into the wiring directly. And so many people will try to change the fact, the cell, instead of dealing with the energies that are running through the cell. In exactly the same way, if I go out into the driveway and turn off the car that's poorly tuned, that's creating all this interference, all of a sudden the picture goes back to perfect. And in essence, because we haven't been taught how the whole thing works, we think, wow, a miracle just happened. The cell that was so distorted and so diseased all of a sudden became healthy, and so that must be a miracle. And I'd offer, well, in the sense that it's possible, it's a miracle, but once you understand how it works, those miracles become normal. They become natural. Because when you learn how to turn off or remove what creates the distortion of the cell changes in an instant. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does make sense. One of the thoughts that I had around that is, so all of a sudden I could have an energy that's in me that I'm really tuned in with, and I can get in an environment, say with some other people, and that energy that they're emitting, and or that it will resonate something in me, kind of like within, if I have the opportunity to take on that energy, or to remove myself. You know, I'm thinking about like going to work, and all of a sudden people are I go in a good mood, and next thing that I know, then I'm feeling a little bit down and depressed because of the different conversations and the things that have been going on. Is that an accurate analogy of what happens?
Well, you know, we live in a resonance world, and so if we get into a field where something in the form of negativity is present, and we have a matching negativity, now the problem isn't their negativity. The problem is the negativity that exists inside of me. So in that field, that may resonate in me, and if I'm feeling it, what I know is it's my work to do, not their work to do. Now, they may have some work to do. Here they are. Let's acknowledge they're in negativity. But their negativity doesn't cause me to be negative. It just shows me the matching frequency that's inside of me. What tends to happen is people want to look at everybody else, and everybody else is the problem, and so they go, well, you're negative, therefore I need to change you, instead of, I have a negative response to your negativity. I'll do my work first before I start talking to you about your negativity. You know, in the ancient Aramaic language, you hear a man named Yeshua saying, why are you trying to take the speck out of your brother's eye while you have a beam in your own? And in essence, that's what most of the world is doing. That's what war is about. That's what struggle, that's what fight, that's what all that's about, is we're trying to change in someone else what we can only change within ourselves. And we have people who spend their whole lives trying to change the dynamics that go on inside of them by trying to change what's happening outside of them, which is, you know, the impossible dream. It isn't going to happen. It's not possible to change what's happening inside of you by changing what's happening outside of you. Now, if you change it outside of you, you may well become less aware of what's going on inside of you, but be assured that sooner or later somebody is going to show up that's going to bring that forward once again. And that's the essence of the book. Why is this happening to me again? If you never learn how to go inside and change yourself, then it's guaranteed that somebody else is going to show up. And the natural state for the human being, I would offer, is the state of love. Actually, I just received an email recently from a friend that quoted Dr. Gerald Jampolsky, who's a psychiatrist, and what Gerald says is, quote, "If I were allowed to rewrite the American Psychiatrist Association Manual of Diagnosis, it would be one page and it would read, insanity is when we're not experiencing ourselves as love and giving that love away." And as you know, David, when we do a workshop, Jeannie usually starts the first workshop, "Why is this happening to me again?" with a question. And the question is, how many have ever held a newborn child? And then she asks people to tap into the essence of that newborn and describe it in a single word. Everybody's word is always some variation on the theme of love. Question, why would that be? Why would everybody's thought be or description be something about love? I'd offer it's because that's our human nature. That's what human life is made of. It is made of the active presence of love. And once we recognize that, then we have the opportunity to return to our original essence, to return to our human lives. But most people make it dependent on what everybody else is doing rather than dealing with what's going on inside of us. And the idea here in this work is to literally start to take on what's happening inside of you and to change its direction.
Yeah, it reminds me of an email that I got. I used to have these emails that come through. There was this man in medicine, and feeling ill and weak one day, a man believed he had caught the sickness of some of his neighbors. Slowly making his way to a doctor, the man requested, "Please prescribe some medicine for my neighbors." "But what about you?" the physician asked the physician. No, you don't understand," insisted the man, as he wearily fell into a chair. "It is my neighbors who are sick. The man with the illness is the man who needs the medicine." That's kind of what I hear you saying with it. Whatever it is that's going on around me, that it's just resonating things within myself that I need to heal.
Yeah. And the insane mind, the mind without a human life in it, without the active presence of love, is always trying to fight outside of itself that which can only be healed from within. So, David, thank you for your call, and we've got somebody else calling in, so I'm going to switch callers, and we'll carry forward and maybe hear from you again.
Very good. Namaste.
Okay, area code 417, you're on the line.
Hi, Michael. This is Sam.
Well, hi, Sam. How are you, young lady?
I'm great. I wanted to
that's
comment
awesome.
on the first caller that called.
Yes.
The first lady was struggling.
Yes.
I struggled once for many years.
Oh, you don't know anything about struggling, do you, Sam? Let me introduce Sam to our audience. Sam is a friend, a longtime friend from Springfield, Missouri. She actually teaches this work and operates a support group. And so you're telling me, Sam, now this is something new to me, that you struggled at one time in your life with these sort of issues?
At one time, I struggled a lot. When I first came to Heartland, the first orientation I went through and I introduced myself, I said, life is a struggle. And Dr. Michael Ryce said to me, Sam, look at the word you're carrying. Look at the message you're giving yourself. Let go of that and life will no longer be a struggle. And I changed my internal dialogue, and struggle does not enter into my vocabulary ever. I learned how to let go of struggling, and I really related to the first lady who called in because I could really sense the pain that she's feeling from thinking that she's struggling. So what I would offer to her is to let go of the word struggle and change her dialogue, and her life will totally change.
Yeah, and of course, again, the way to let go of that internal dialogue is to start to apply the tool of forgiveness, that oftentimes those struggles, those pains, those traumas are generational. They've been going on for a long time. We learned them. We came by them honestly through our family systems. And when we start to deal with those dynamics with forgiveness, literally those thoughts, those feelings, and the literal physical chemicals start to disappear. How is the support group ongoing there right now? I know you took an intermission from it, Sam. Is it moving forward at this point?
I will be starting it up probably within the next month or so. I'm doing 3 plays right now, so I'm really busy at this time and haven't had the time to devote to it. But probably within the next month or so, I'll start them back up again. But
Awesome.
we've had some wonderful healing taking place in it, and people are doing the worksheets and moving on through it. And I just wanted to make a quick call to tell people out there who are listening to this. This may sound like a totally foreign language, what Michael is telling you, but as you learn it and follow his teachings, your life will change so drastically, and you will understand how much you create in your own life. And it may sound very foreign and strange to you now, but once you learn it, it's the way to heal your life, because he knows what he's talking about. Forgiveness is the answer, and it's forgiving and letting go of what you're holding inside. The worksheet process is the way to do it, and just have support around you and know that you are creating what you're feeling. It does not come outside of you, and that's a big one to learn. But once you get it, it's life-changing. So that's kind of all I want to say. I want to give time for other people.
Cool. Well, one of the ideas of the show is to create that kind of support on an ongoing basis for people. And you remind me, Sam, when you talk about that, of one of the things that David is doing, and you might check with him and get him to send you a copy of the presentation that he's doing. But one of the slides he's got in a slideshow that he's doing around the work has some characters from different languages, and he's got it set up with the question, if you came to this workshop tonight and you didn't know anything about Chinese or French or German, whatever, would you expect to be able to walk out of here fluent in that language? And, of course, nobody would expect to do that. But it is interesting that people live in a world oftentimes of hostility and fear, and they expect to be fluent in love after the first 10 minutes. And they expect to reclaim a human life and have it all done yesterday. And it's just not quite that fast a project. It is a long-term project. It does take consistent application of the tools. And just the same as learning a new language, it is literally the engagement in the tools over a long enough period of time to change the content of 1,000 generations of data that, sadly, in our culture especially, has a lot of craziness, a lot of hostility, and a lot of fear. It's time for us to be done with that and reclaim our human lives. In fact, one of the things I've thought about doing was starting a foundation called Foundation for the Reclamation of Human Life, or the Restoration of Human Life on Earth, because human life was just about gone. When you look at the definition of that newborn that everybody has, that is love, or some variation on the theme of love, and people who are not living with the active presence of love in them, their human lives have literally been obliterated, and they've bought into a culture of hostility and fear. And when that's gone on for 1,000 generations, it's almost an automatic genetic inclination, and that's what needs to be overcome. That's what needs to be shifted and changed. So, Sam, thank you for your call. We'll be back in the Ozarks probably, I don't know when we're going to be back. We were planning to be back there about 8 weeks ago, and something took a hold of us and just got things moving, and we have not stopped since we got to Florida January 1st. We weren't supposed to be here this year, and we got a call from someone we were scheduled to speak for next year, and they had made a mistake and put us on their calendar for January of 2011 instead of 2012. So we had the space, and we were actually out in Las Vegas, and we had the choice of heading back to Missouri or going to Florida in January. So we made the hard choice and came to Florida, and we had one 7-day workshop series, and then we added a second 4-day, and then we added another 4-day, and then another 2-day, and we just did a workshop yesterday down in Miami that was totally spontaneous for a group of folks down there. So things are just happening here in ways that we can hardly keep up with it. So, but we will be back there before our intensive season starts in July. So we will see you at some point in our journeys. Blessings.
Well, it's like you're right where you.
Did I lose you, Sam? Oh,
can you hear me?
I apologize. Oh, go ahead.
In ending, I just wanted to say that. Are you there?
I'm here, Sam.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
When we talk about love, I think your explanation of love is so perfect, because once we understand that we are love, we can be love. It's not a verb of loving someone. It's being love. I posted something on Facebook this morning, and someone wrote back, Sam, you radiate peace and love. That's my purpose in life, is to radiate peace and love. So that was a wonderful compliment, because that's the state that we can all be in at all times if we have the willingness to do it.
That's the starting point for all of us, absolutely.
Yes. Have
Glad
a great
to have
day,
you on
Michael.
our team, Sam. All right, you have a blessed one. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Okay, area code 512, you're on the line.
How are you today?
I am blessed and highly favored. How about you?
Well, I'll buy that one. I haven't listened to your show before, so excuse me if I'm coming up with the wrong thing, but I don't know if you do any intuitive readings or stuff like that, but I'm back in a relationship that I had with my ex-wife, living in her house, and it's just a very strange scenario that one day we're in a relationship and the next day we're not in one. And I've kind of been studying this enlightenment and this conditional love thing. Last week I had 2 days of just absolute conditional love, the experience of it, total connection, which is absolutely amazing. And then the next day I jump right out of it, creating some kind of drama.
The next layer comes up.
So
isn't it awesome? You'd almost think that life was here to teach us forgiveness. And one of the things that happens, we talk about a thing in the book, and you can go to the website and download the book free. There's a section in there on what we call a healing crisis. The system of medicine that I'm trained in is naturopathy, and we teach about a thing called healing crisis. And in that healing process, whatever we've locked away from ourselves, whatever we've denied and dissociated from, has to come forward to move back out of the system. And so when you talk about 2 days really in a connected space, 2 days in a connected space with love elevates your level of vitality. And whatever elevates your level of vitality empowers you to deal with the next layer that needs to be cleaned out. And once you recognize that, then you become more embracing, and we usually suggest the idea of all embracing love. You become more embracing of your own pain, your own trauma, and you use the tools to clear out the next layer. And it's only as you become more vitalized that you can reach into the deeper layers of what needs to be cleared out. So it sounds to me like you're right on track.
Well, I didn't read the book. I guess I need to, because the next thing that come up was I probably could have stayed on course, but I chose drama without realizing it.
Right.
And that's amazing to me how I could spend all the time I do, working at this and being in the moment, and then all of a sudden the tool that I need is I'm totally oblivious to. And
that's called going unconscious. That's called going unconscious. When you reach into the next part of the dissociated mind, there's unconsciousness there. And that part of the work is to wake up, is to remember that there are tools, that there are ways to deal with these things. And because they are subtly, in the initial stages, because they're subtly implanted in brain cells, those subtle energies can be blasted totally and completely out of awareness by the next layer and the next level of emotion. And our words, key in and tie into what it is that's going to surface and what's going to come up. But you're right on track with it. That's exactly what happens.
Well, I guess I need to be smiling. I'm thinking that throughout this process, I keep hitting this drama button. I think I want to at least move it up to a comedy button.
Hey, that's an awesome idea. We have a workshop called Codependence to Interdependence, and one of the things that we introduce in that workshop is what we call a power person. The power person is somebody in our lives who had more power over our lives than we did. And it's usually a parent, though not always, and that power person does behaviors, and as a small child in survival, we tend to just literally absorb the energies of that power person. Literally, those energies absorbed become the chemicals in our cells, become the emotions in our cells, become the trauma in our cells. In fact, we create a whole body based in trauma. And when we wake up to our human lives, to the love that we are, that trauma body tends to get quiet. But then when the person shows up who knows how to give us the look, that knows how to say just the right word or, the right tone of voice to resonate that which we've dissociated from, then the trauma self, the trauma body is activated. It literally is resonated on an energetic level into activity. And when it comes up, all it wants to do is feed. And it feeds on trauma. We'll have people who hear us talk about love, and they'll go, I got it. Life's about love. Okay, that's what I'm going to do from now on. They even go home and announce to that person, that was their challenge. From now on, I understand my life is love, and I'm going to live lovingly. And that's what they do until that person gives them a look. And once they give them the look, all of a sudden, the resolve to live in love is gone. It's history. And when we awaken to that and become aware of that, we can start to change all of the unconscious dynamics, all of the trauma dynamics. And you might want to, as I said earlier, if you were listening, we were talking about the reality management worksheet, you might want to start to put the pen to the paper, because each time that you do that reality management worksheet, you weaken once again another layer of that trauma. And each time you weaken it, it has less and less and less control over you.
I'll tell you
what.
That
means that you get to be more conscious.
You are very awesome. I appreciate you so much. And what
of course,
saying,
it's all done with smoke and mirrors, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
well,
so we know when you think
exists.
about that awesome,
nothing
when you think about that awesome
anyway.
self. Say again?
Nothing exists anyway.
Well, I'm not sure I'd go along with that. We are speaking, so something must exist. But not much exists the way we see it. Not much exists the way we see it. And the way we see it is usually through the filters of that trauma body instead of through the filters of love, which are what support actual human life in us. One little suggestion I might make, you spoke about how you were sharing a home with your ex-wife. You might choose to change the thought a little bit from exing her into, well, perhaps she's a former wife or maybe a friend. And as you let go of exing her, you might change some dynamics in that relationship too. Oh, we lost the caller. David? No. Okay. So anyway, we lost you. If you want to call back in and continue that conversation. Otherwise, we'll carry on with the idea of the power that our language has to change what happens in our minds. And when you simply use a word that links into some aspect of trauma, that tends to resonate brain cells that hold us in a state of unconsciousness. And that's when we go, well, yesterday I was in all this state of love, and now here I am back in my hostility or fear. What happened? Something resonated my hostility or fear. And that's either my next opportunity to blame somebody else for what's resonating inside of me, or it's my opportunity to recognize and own I have a part of me that holds some hostility and fear. I have a trauma body, and I'm going to be responsible for my trauma body. And what I'm going to do is every time something resonates or causes something to surface out of that trauma body, I'm going to catch that thing by the throat, and I'm going to throw it out. I'm going to forgive it. I'm going to remove it. And again, the technology of forgiveness has been totally lost in our culture. It's been gone for almost 2,000 years, and our work is about restoring that process. And oftentimes people say, well, gee, if I forgive them, well, first of all, I'd suggest you never forgive them. It's not about letting them off the hook. Now, you might choose to pardon them. That's the act of pardoning, but forgiveness is how you deal with your trauma. It isn't about letting others off the hook. So whenever you're in a state where love is not your expression, love is not your experience, there's work to be done. And guess whose work it is? It's yours. It's not theirs. As you recognize that and you take the tool of forgiveness and put it to work in your life, you change what happens. And that change creates such awesome results, both inside and out, that you wouldn't even know that you're living in the same world. And we're looking to support people who want to live differently than what our culture teaches and open to a whole new process of how this game of life could be playing out. Forgiveness becomes the key. If you want to go to our website, www.whyagain, and you're anywhere in the South Florida area, on the right-hand side, if you click on schedules and then travel schedule, you'll see where we're going to be tonight and tomorrow night doing free workshops. Tonight is on creating consciously. Tomorrow night is getting the stress you need. It's interesting how we live in a culture that speaks in terms of everything outside of us being, everything is going on inside of us being about what's outside of us, when in fact what we need to be doing is stepping into our inner dimensions with awareness and recognizing cause in us. And as you recognize cause in you and you change cause, things around and outside of you start to change. However, when cause is not dealt with, what happens is the world encroaches with its effect and brings up stress. And that stress tends to be destructive stress. And as a result of that, our culture has pretty much given stress a bad rap. Oh, yeah, stress is bad. You got to get rid of stress. Excuse me, if you got rid of stress, you would die. Without stress, you couldn't live. Without stress, you wouldn't do anything. Stress is at the base of all behavior. And there are useful stresses. There are destructive stresses. In fact, the originator that started, or one of the originators in our modern times that started to work with the area of stress, coined the term eustress. There are positive, wonderful, absolutely awesome result-producing stresses that you can engage in. But if you don't know how to create those stresses, then you tend to follow the genetic patterns of creating stresses that have gone on in your bloodline for perhaps 1,000 generations. And if you keep creating those stresses, those qualities of stresses, you say, stress is really bad, stress is really painful, stress is really negative. No, it's not. Stress is absolutely neutral. When you learn how to dump and get rid of, first of all, when you learn exactly how stress is created, and then you learn how to dump and get rid of the negative stresses, it's wondrous to start creating awesome, positive, uplifting, useful stresses in your life. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow night at the Heart Painter Studio in Boca Raton at Royal Palm Place. the plaza between Camino Royale and Palmetto Park, 7 o'clock tonight, 7 o'clock tomorrow night, 7 to 9:30, and there'll be free open workshops, and you are invited to be joining us. An interesting quote that I received recently was a quote that was off of a sign on a covered wagon out in Phoenix, Arizona. And this, seemingly ancient symbol, a covered wagon, wow, that's a long time ago. But the quote very aptly applies to the same work that we're talking about here, because most people live in a world where they simply want to be in a continuous stream of blame. It's somebody else's fault. Look what they did to me. In fact, our culture's language is, you made me angry, you made me sad, you made me afraid, you made me this, you made me that. The quote on the side of this covered wagon in Phoenix, Arizona said this: the cowards did not start. The thing that we're inviting people to start to do with this work is to step inside themselves, to take responsibility, and begin to change every energy that is unlike love, so that they restore themselves in their physiology to a place where their human lives, love, can show up. So the quote again is, the cowards did not start. The weak fell by the wayside. Only the strong survived. The coward does not start to do the work inside themselves. They live in terror of looking and taking responsibility. The weak begin, but as soon as things start to come up in their faces, as soon as an old rage, an old fear, an old hostility, and those old blame ideas come up, kind of like our last caller was saying, they go unconscious. They get lost in that, and they fall by the wayside. They don't continue with their work. And then those who choose to follow through will get to look at every rage, every fear, every grief, every pain from every generation of their bloodline, and they'll open the space for the healing of those things. We did a workshop in Miami this weekend, and it was interesting. We had two brothers, and one of the brothers' sons was there, and we were talking about how energy produces results. And I like to use the example of a seed. If you have a tomato seed and you have a mushroom seed, and you plant the tomato seed in the ground beside the poison mushroom seed, there's nothing you can take out of the tomato seed. There's nothing you can take out of the ground. There's nothing you can take out of the air or the water that's going to nourish that seed that'll make it anything other than a poison mushroom. There's nothing you can take out of the air, the water, the ground that'll cause the tomato seed to grow into an oak tree. That seed is going to produce after its kind. And once you recognize that, then you recognize that these thoughts we think are seeds that produce results. And just like the poison mushroom will attract and take out of its environment, out of the air, out of the water, out of the earth, everything it needs to become a perfect poison mushroom, in exactly the same way, the tomato will take all the nutrients it needs, all the things out of the air, the earth, the water, that it needs to produce a tomato plant. Well, these two brothers were there, and the son of one of the brothers was there, and all of a sudden the son, who's probably in his early 20s, starts talking about an injury that he realized that both his father and his uncle had. He pulled up his pant leg and showed us the scar on top of his knee, and then turned to his uncle, who was sitting on the other side of the room, and his uncle had the same scar. He turned to his father. His father had the same scar. And how powerful are we at producing results? Well, here these three men are, of course, totally seemingly independent from each other, yet sharing a genetic structure. And in sharing that genetic structure, each of them holds frequencies that produce results. One of the men, the father, was running in a forest and tripped over a root and hit his knee on the root and created a cut on his right knee. The uncle was playing baseball, being kind of heroic, he shared, And he's reaching for a ball that's a long ways away from him. He trips, and there happens to be in the baseball diamond embedded under the dirt a brick, and he rips his knee open in exactly the same place as his brother did on the root of a tree. The son, exact injury, right knee, exactly the same place, was running and sprinting, again, trying to show off a little bit, fell, and there was a piece of glass in the dirt that ripped his knee open in the same place. So it's kind of interesting as we had a group of about 20 folks or so, and we're doing some process work around this to see how all three created the same result. Well, about 2 hours later, the next generation of children got on. It was on a boat we were doing this. The next generation of children got on the boat. There were 3 children that were grandchildren of the two brothers. And after about 10 minutes on the boat, the young boy, who's about maybe 5, is running around the boat, playing with his uncle. They're having a great time, the youngest of the trio that I just spoke about. And he goes rolling over. He trips, and there's an aluminum frame on the side of the boat. This 5 or 6-year-old child, right knee, exactly the same place across the top of the kneecap, hits this aluminum frame, and fortunately he didn't tear his knee open, but went limping away with his right knee injured in exactly the same place as the 3 men that we had just talked about. Everything that's sown into our fields produces results. When we produce a result, now, of course, the uncle could say, it wasn't my fault I tripped on the root. It must have been just an accident. And the brother could say, well, the fact that brick was there was just an accident. And the son could say, well, that piece of glass just happened to be there. And, of course, the grandson could say, oh, well, the aluminum frame just came out and hit me. Too much for coincidence. We are like the seed. Everything we plant in us draws to us exactly what we need. And whatever the closest circumstance is that's around us, we'll use that to produce a result in us. We'll use the bricks, the tree roots, the aluminum frames, the glass, or we'll use the people to produce the results that we hold within us. And I'd offer that's called creatorship. And as a human being, made of the stuff called love, in the image and likeness of the Creator, you are love, and you are a creator. And if there's something you dissociate from in yourself, something you deny ownership for, then that energy literally will be stored in your cellular structure holographically. And stored holographically, it will play out. Forgiveness is how you reach into those places and remove the parts of you that never belonged. And as you remove the parts of you that never belonged, then you are freed from those patterns, as is your bloodline. And that's the essence of why is this happening to me again, and our work with forgiveness. We invite you to tune back in with us tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We invite you to join us tonight at the Heart Painter Studio in Boca Raton at Royal Palm Place. We'll be doing the workshop on creating consciously. Tomorrow night, getting the stress you need. Have an awesome day. Know that you're highly blessed and you're held in the space of love. And have a blessed day.
Blessings to everyone, and stay tuned for Fifth Dimensional Living here with me and my co-host Diane Bachberger right after this one. And please tune in to Michael every Monday and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He will be here every day, Monday through Friday. Yes, Monday through Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Much love, everyone, and we'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.